Hi and welcome to today's video. Today we have a Valentine's theme and I will show you how to make these heart-shaped earrings. Here I have them in gold, here I have them in red, and here I have another pink version which I made as a pendant. So as always, I will first tell you what we will need. Of course we will need a bead mat, then definitely a needle. This specific needle is John James size 11. Next we will need beads. These red ones are Japanese TOHO Treasure in color 45A. I will sew the heart from these beads. And if you are interested in these amazing gold beads, they are Miyuki Delica in color number 31. Next we will need some thread. For projects of this type I usually use Fireline. I will use size 0.1 mm, but I tried it with 0.12 mm and 0.17 mm and it worked great as well. Next we will need two ear studs. These have a diameter of 5 mm and they are just the right size for these earrings. And of course we will also need ear nuts. Some sharp scissors or a thread zip and glue. Maybe E6000 or I have this UHU Power glue, or if you don't have any of that you can use a glue gun. I have tested that it holds with a glue gun as well. So let's get started. We prepare the beads and so you know what we are actually going to do. We will sew one part like this into which we will glue the ear stud. For this part we will need about 50 centimeters of Fireline, of course with a reserve for weaving the thread in. And then we have the second part, which is exactly the same. These two parts are the same, only in this one the ear stud is not glued. For this part count on about 80 centimeters of Fireline, because we will join the parts like this and sew the parts together along the edge, and we will also add beads to the gaps. So that's why we need the second thread a little longer. So I cut off about 50 centimeters of thread. And here on the top left you will always see a pattern that I created, so you know where we are in the pattern and what we are actually sewing, in which step we are. If you want to download the whole thing as a PDF, you prefer to have printed instructions as well, you will want to return to the instructions later, you can download the whole instructions as a PDF. The link can be found below in the video description. So first I pick up 3 beads. I slide them down. I leave a piece of thread loose here so I can weave it in later. And now I join these 3 beads into a circle, which means I pass the needle through all 3 beads again from bottom up. They are joined like this, they form a triangle. If you want it to be stronger, you can also pass the needle through 2 or 3 beads again, as you wish. This is what the base looks like, the first row. If you have seen my tutorial on triangle earrings, the base will be sewn exactly the same, and then there will be some changes in the corners where we will add 1 bead somewhere, 2 somewhere, skip somewhere, and so on to create the heart. However, if you know how to make a triangle, you will have no problem sewing a heart. And now we will increase in the corners, which means I pick up 2 beads and pass the needle through the next bead. And I like to do this that I settle it with my nail. I straighten it. I always do this when I do the increase. The beads then form a little tree. And again, I have another corner here, so I pick up 2 beads again. I pass the needle through this next bead. I increase again in the corner. And I straighten it a bit with my nail again. and I need to increase again, so 2 beads again, and here I also need to do a step up. Normally I would just pass the needle through this next bead, but since I need to get to the third row, I do a step up, which means I pass the needle through 2 beads. I tighten and straighten it again. This is what it looks like now. And we increase again, so 2 beads again, and I insert the needle into the next bead again and tighten. Now I will sew 1 bead into this gap. I pick up 1 bead and sew it in there. Now we have reached the corner again. That means we will increase, so I pick up 2 beads and I pass the needle through this next bead. In the next step, I pick up 1 bead and sew it in here in this gap. And I'm in a corner again. That means I will increase. I pick up 2 beads and pass the needle through the next bead. Now I pick up 1 bead, I sew it into this gap, and you see that I have 2 beads here like this. That means I will do a step up to get to the next row. So I pick up 1 bead, I pass the needle through 2 adjacent beads to do a step up. I close the next row with it. It still looks exactly the same as the tutorial for the triangle. I pick up 2 beads again and I increase, so I pass the needle through the next bead. Now I will sew 1 bead into each of these gaps, so 1 here and 1 here. One bead, and the second bead. I increase again here. I sew 2 beads. Here again 1 bead in this gap and another bead in this gap. So 1 here. And the second one here. I increase again. I pick up 2 beads and pass the needle through the next bead. I tighten and possibly straighten the beads. And here you see again 1 bead, another bead, and here I have a step up to the next row. So 1 bead, and here I pass the needle through these 2 beads. I increase again. And now there will be a small change. This is where the 2 arcs of the heart will be. I pick up 1 bead and sew it only here. I skip this gap. That means I pass the needle through the bottom bead to skip the gap. And here I sew another bead. This is how I start to shape the heart. I increase again in the corner, that means 2 beads. And here on the side, 1 bead in each gap. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. Here is another change. We have a corner here where we normally increase, but I want the top to be more pointed, so I'm only going to sew 1 bead here. Now I sew 1 bead in each gap. 1, 2, 3, and step up. One, 2, 3, and step up. We will not increase in the corner here. That means I just pass the needle without a bead. And here I sew 1 bead. This is how I shape the heart. I will not do anything here, and I will sew the next bead only here. I just pass the needle through the beads. I will not add any new beads. Until here. Here I sew 1 bead. And it's done. It looks like a heart. Now I weave the thread in. I don't have to make any knots, they would bother me there. I just pass the needle back and forth through a few beads. I make a circle, for example, so that the thread does not unravel. This connection will be very strong and there is no need to make any knots. Now you can cut it off or use a thread zap like me. Do the same with the other thread, also weave it in. Now I glue the ear stud. I put a little glue in the center of the heart. I also put glue on the ear stud. Just follow the procedure for your specific glue. I have to wait 10 minutes now. After 10 minutes, when the glue is ready, I can glue it like this. I still have to load it hard on properly, so I prepared another heart here, which I made yesterday, and it is firmly glued. I sewed the other half of the heart in exactly the same way, but I didn't cut the thread because I will sew the 2 halves of the heart together with this thread. I put the 2 halves of the heart together like this, so that the thread points to the left. And we will sew the hearts along the edge. We will add beads here. Here I will add 3 extra beads to make a nicer tip. Here I will add beads again. and I will not add anything in this top part. You can see the patterns again on the top left. We will sew it in a zigzag way, just like the triangles are joined. The principle is exactly the same. I put them together like this. I pick up one bead. The thread comes out of the left bead, and I pass the needle through the bead on the opposite side. And tighten it. Now you see that we have these gaps and sticking out beads, so I will sew one bead in each of these gaps. I pick up one bead and I sew the bead diagonally. The thread comes out of the bead on the right, so I pass the needle diagonally through the bead on the left. The beads look a bit ugly now, but don't worry, we will sew them again, but the other way around. That means that we sewed this bead from right to left, so when we sew it again, we will sew it from left to right. That means that the bead will sit nicely in place. I pick up another bead, and I sew it in the gap from left to right. I pick up another bead, I sew it from right to left. And another one from left to right. Now the needle goes through the top bead, and we have joined the left side. Now I will join the right side. Again, I will sew one bead in each of these gaps. From right to left, from left to right, and I will continue with this zigzag method. I don't have these gaps in the arcs, but to make the heart have a nice shape, I will do it so that I sew one bead diagonally, from right to left. And from left to right, I sew another bead. And now as it goes down, I will not add anything. And I sew it in zigzag exactly the same, but without beads. To the left and to the right. Again to the left and to the right. And left, and here we add one more bead, so that I have added 6 beads on each side. Here we also added 2 beads at the top, and here we added only one before because that's how the thread came out, that it was not possible without having to go back, so we added here now. And to shape a nice arc, I pass the needle straight through the first bead that I added when sewing the two sides together. Now we will sew again zigzag, but the other way around. I sew to the left, so that the bead sits in place. I sew through 2 beads to the right. And 2 beads to the left. 2 beads to the right. And here we are coming to the peak, but because it's too dull, I'm gonna pass the needle through the bead in the middle. I pick up 3 beads. And I pass the needle again through the middle bead, which I use to sew the 2 sides together. And it gives the heart a very nice shape. And I continue zigzag to the right, to the left, and again to the right, and to the left, and I just join these 2 added beads in the arc. And it's done. Now I just weave the thread in. I will not make any knots. I sew back and forth. Just be careful here. After all, there is quite a lot of thread there, so if the needle does not go through, do not make that wiggle movement. Otherwise, it might happen that a bead cracks. That would be a pity when it's done. If the needle gets stuck, it's better to pull it out with pliers. There is less chance that you will break a bead. So now I cut off the thread. This is what it looks like from the back. This is what the front looks like. And I just put on the ear nut. I sewed another earring to go with it, and this is what it looks like finished. I think that with a little skill you can sew such a pair without any problem in an hour or less. And here are the gold ones. Let me know in the comments below if you like the gold ones more or the classic red ones. I have to admit that I probably like the gold ones more. And besides earrings, you can make a pendant in the same way. I made a pink one here. If you liked the tutorial, please give me a like and subscribe. Alternatively, if you are interested in some premium content, check out the membership here on YouTube or Patreon. The links are in the video description. I will be grateful for any support. If you make something according to my tutorials, I will be very happy if you tag me on Instagram or Facebook. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye!